The storm beneath the ashes. Smoke curled through the shattered corridors of the Black Haven, whispering of the battle that had nearly ended everything. The silence that followed wasn't peace, it was the sound of exhaustion, fear, and survival. Frank Maccury staggered through the debris, his mask cracked, blood streaking his cheek. His chest burned with every breath, yet his eyes stayed fixed on one thing, Annie. She was kneeling beside a broken terminal, the dim blue light from the shattered screen flickering across her face. "Frank, it's gone," she whispered, her voice trembling. "The system, the entire network. They wiped it." Frank clenched his fists. Not everything. Raven wouldn't leave without a backup. He began tearing through the wreckage, searching desperately. The smell of smoke and metal filled the air. Somewhere deep in the darkness, a faint beep echoed, small, rhythmic, almost deliberate. Annie's sharp mind caught it first. There, under the main control rack. Frank pushed aside panels and wires until his hand brushed against a black cube, pulsing faintly with blue light. He lifted it, and as the cube activated, a faint holographic projection shimmered into existence, Raven's face, cold and distant. "If you're seeing this," Raven's recorded voice began, distorted by static, "then the war has already reached you. Project Eclipse is no myth, it's the key Helix has been chasing for decades. Your father died protecting it. And now, it's in your blood." Annie froze. "In our blood?" Frank's heartbeat quickened. "What the hell does that mean?" The projection flickered violently, the audio breaking apart. But one word came through clearly. "Run." A deep mechanical sound echoed through the tunnels, footsteps, synchronized and heavy. Frank's instincts screamed their back. He grabbed Annie's hand. "Move." They sprinted through the half-collapsed passageways, lights flickering red, the metal floor rattling beneath their boots. Behind them, dark figures appeared through the haze. Helix's new breed of soldiers, their eyes glowing with cold precision. Frank turned a corner and kicked open a sealed maintenance hatch. "Down here." They slid down a maintenance shaft, dropping into an old subway line long forgotten by the city above. The smell of rust and rain filled the air. Water dripped from cracked ceilings as they landed hard on the ground below. "Where are we?" Annie whispered. Frank looked up, catching his breath. "Somewhere we're not supposed to be." The tunnel stretched into endless darkness, and from far ahead, faint white light flickered. They moved toward it cautiously. The deeper they went, the more the air changed, colder, quieter, almost electric. Suddenly, Annie stopped. Her small wrist device, one of Raven's last tools, began to glow. A stream of coordinates appeared on the cracked screen. It's leading us somewhere," she said, eyes wide. Frank frowned. "Or luring us." But they had no choice. They followed the path until they reached a massive underground chamber sealed by an old steel door covered in strange markings. The symbol etched in the center was unmistakable, the same winged insignia engraved on their father's old ring. Annie touched the metal surface, and for a moment the markings pulsed faintly blue, as if recognizing her. The door shuddered, gears turning after decades of silence, and slowly began to open. Inside was a room filled with dust-covered equipment, maps, and holographic screens that flickered to life the moment they entered. The air smelled of history, secrets, and electricity. "This place," Annie murmured. "It's not just a base, it's a memory." Frank's eyes fell on a small plaque on the wall. "Property of the United States Special Intelligence. Archive Unit. Project Eclipse." Before he could respond, a faint voice echoed from the shadows of the room, gravelly, old, but filled with purpose. "You're late, Frank." Both siblings spun around, weapons raised. A man stepped into the light, tall, cloaked, and masked in a design eerily similar to Raven's. His voice carried the weight of wars fought in silence. "Your father knew this day would come. He left me to prepare you for what's next." Frank froze. "Who are you?" The figure removed his mask slowly, revealing sharp, battle-worn features and piercing eyes that looked hauntingly familiar. "Name's Agent Calder. Your father's last partner, and now your only ally." A rumble echoed in the distance, the sound of approaching machines. The lights flickered as the walls shook. Calder's expression hardened. "Helix has found this place. You have two choices: run again, or finally learn what it means to fight like your father. Frank looked at Annie, then back at Calder. For the first time, there was no hesitation in his eyes. Then teach me. Calder smirked faintly. Good. Because the shadows are coming, and they don't forgive mistakes. As the camera of fate zoomed out from the forgotten chamber, the sound of distant thunder echoed through the tunnels. The war for the truth had only just begun. The forgotten sentinel. Thunder rolled across the shattered skies above the Black Haven. Deep below, where shadows whispered through steel corridors, Frank and Annie followed Agent Calder down a narrow, dimly lit passage that hadn't been opened in decades. Dust hung like fog, and the air carried a weight, as if the walls themselves remembered things they wished they could forget. Calder's voice echoed quietly, "Not everything here was meant to be found." Frank's heartbeat quickened. After the war with Helix's soldiers, he'd barely rested. His arms still ached, his mind still replayed the screams, but something in him refused to stop. Every mystery only pulled him deeper. They reached an old metallic gate sealed with multiple layers of encryption. Annie's eyes glinted with curiosity. "This system, it's older than anything in the Haven," she whispered, running her fingers over faded symbols. "It's not coded like Raven's systems." "Because," Calder replied, "it predates Raven himself." With a soft hiss, the gate opened. Cold air spilled out, carrying the scent of rust, oil, and something ancient. Inside was a wide chamber, dark, silent, and lined with broken containment pods. Only one remained intact, pulsing faintly with a deep, golden light. Frank stepped closer. His reflection shimmered on the pod's glass, and behind it, a figure stood motionless. Tall, strong, with long silver hair and a half-torn combat suit marked by the old insignia, HNH, Hidden National Heroes. "Who is he?" Annie asked, her voice almost trembling. Calder's tone dropped. "That is Elias Vorn, the Sentinel, one of the first protectors of this nation. The man who vanished before your father ever picked up a weapon." Frank stared in disbelief. "You mean he's one of them?" "More than that," Calder replied. "He trained them all." Suddenly, the pod's lights began to flicker, slow, then rapid, until the whole chamber vibrated. Annie stumbled backward as the monitors came to life, displaying ancient data streams. Biostasis disengaged. Subject, Elias Vorn, awakening sequence initiated. Frank took a step forward, drawn by something he couldn't explain, a pull that reached beyond time itself. With a loud hiss, the chamber released a burst of icy vapor. The glass split open. Elias Vorn stepped out. Even weakened, his presence was overwhelming, a man forged from silence and scars. His eyes, a stormy gray, scanned the children before settling on Frank. "You have his eyes," he said quietly, voice graveled by years of sleep. "You knew my father?" Frank asked, barely containing his shock. "I trained your father," Elias said. "And now I must finish what he started." The silence that followed was heavy. Calder bowed his head slightly. Even he, the hardened veteran, showed respect. Annie, standing by the control panel, noticed something strange flickering across the monitors. Calder," she whispered. "Someone's watching us." The screens glitched, static, then a distorted symbol appeared. The emblem of Helix. And beneath it, a line of text scrolled. "Welcome back, Sentinel. We've been expecting you." The lights dimmed. Elias's face turned hard. "They found me, even here." Frank clenched his fists. "Then let them come." Elias looked down at him, the faintest trace of a grim smile. "You're not ready yet, boy. But you will be." The storm outside grew louder, echoing through the metal tunnels like a warning bell. The return of Elias Vorn had awakened something buried, and with it, the balance between light and shadow began to shift again. Far above, in the ruins of the old world, Helix's towers started glowing red. The war had just evolved. The forgotten sentinel. The air inside the chamber thickened as silence settled. The glow from the pod dimmed, leaving only the cold flicker of damaged lights. Elias Vorn stood still, his expression unreadable, an echo of wars long buried and truths better left untold. Frank's gaze stayed locked on him. The name Elias Vorn repeated in his head like a drumbeat. He didn't know why, but something about the man felt familiar. Elias slowly walked toward the main control table. His fingers brushed against the dust-covered panels, leaving faint trails. "The world above has changed," he muttered, "but the blood that built it hasn't." Calder stepped forward. "Elias, they know you're awake. Helix won't stop until they finish what they started 20 years ago." Elias looked up sharply. "Helix never finishes. They only pause, until the next generation bleeds for their failure." His eyes met Frank's again. "Just like your father did." Frank's heart raced. "You knew my father?" Elias exhaled, the sound heavy with ghosts. "I didn't just know him, boy. I made him." Annie tilted her head, confusion and curiosity battling in her wide eyes. "You mean you trained him?" Elias nodded slowly. "He was one of the best I ever had, reckless, brave, too kind for a man who had to kill in silence. He was my greatest student, and my greatest loss." He moved to a wall panel and pressed an almost invisible button. The metal creaked open to reveal an old projection unit. Static buzzed before flickering to life. On the holographic screen, a younger Elias stood beside a man who looked just like Frank, only older, prouder, with the same fire in his eyes. "Dad!" Frank whispered, stepping closer. His breath caught in his throat. The image showed both men standing in a barren wasteland, surrounded by other masked figures, the first hidden heroes. Behind them, the symbol of Helix burned into a concrete wall, half shattered. Elias's voice was distant, almost reverent. "Your father, Commander Annie Maccury, was more than a soldier. He was the conscience of our cause. When others fought for orders, he fought for people." He paused, closing his eyes. "We built the hidden national heroes together, a shadow army to defend the unseen corners of this nation. But Helix, they were once us, a part of the same project, a division that broke away, obsessed with power and control." Calder's jaw tightened. "And they turned on their own." "Yes," Elias said softly. "And your father tried to stop them." The hologram shifted, Annie Maccury standing face to face with a group of men in black suits, symbols glowing faintly on their collars. Words were exchanged, guns raised, and then the explosion. The image froze there, mid-blast. Frank's fists clenched so tightly his knuckles turned white. "That's how he died." Elias looked at him. "No, Frank. That's how he vanished." The room fell into stunned silence. Annie's lips parted. "Vanished? You mean?" Elias turned off the projection. "There was never a confirmed body. Helix wanted the world to think he was dead. But in truth, he was taken, captured. And from what I've heard, Helix found a way to use him." Frank took a step back, his world spinning. "Use him? For what?" Elias's voice grew low, almost trembling. "For something worse than death." He pressed a command on the table. A different file appeared on the screen, encrypted, but barely legible through static. The header read, "Project, Mirror Mind, Subject A, M.001. The file showed human diagrams, DNA maps, and neurological scans. At the bottom, one line repeated, "Objective, convert memory, not flesh." Frank whispered, "They turned his mind against him?" Elias looked away. Helix was experimenting with soldiers who could be controlled through their memories, heroes stripped of will, turned into living ghosts. Annie gasped softly. "So if he's still alive, then he's no longer your father," Elias finished. "At least, not the man he once was." The silence that followed was suffocating. Frank felt his chest tighten, tears burning behind his eyes, but he refused to let them fall. "Then I'll find him," he said, voice trembling yet fierce. "I don't care what they did to him. I'll bring him back." Elias studied him, not as a child anymore, but as something new. "You have his fire, and his madness." He placed a heavy hand on Frank's shoulder. "Then I'll teach you what I couldn't teach him in time. But you must be ready to sacrifice everything. Because Helix's greatest weapon is not their machines. It's what they take from you to make you fight them." Frank nodded, his voice breaking but steady. Then they can take everything, except my purpose. The lights flickered again, alarm starting deep within the haven. Annie turned to the monitors, her sharp eyes scanning the data. They've breached the outer network. We've got company. Elias drew a long breath, his gaze turning cold steel. Then let's show them that the old heroes aren't dead yet. As he turned, his mask locked into place, the old insignia of the hidden heroes gleaming under the flickering lights. The Sentinel had returned, and the war for truth was only beginning. The breach of shadows. The Black Haven's silence shattered with the shriek of alarms. Red lights flashed across the stone corridors, washing the underground sanctuary in blood-colored glow. The hum of computers turned frantic, code streams racing across Annie's screens like veins pulsing with panic. Multiple heat signatures, Sector 5, she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her fingers. Helix breach confirmed. They've found us. Elias Vorn's expression didn't change. He simply reached for his old mask, the iron edges scarred from another era. So, they finally remembered where their ghosts were buried, he muttered. Frank stood beside him, jaw set, adrenaline burning through his veins. His father's face still haunted his mind, the image frozen mid-explosion. But there was no time to mourn, only to fight. Elias pressed a code sequence on the wall. Panels shifted and mechanical compartments slid open, revealing weapons and armor that looked far too advanced for their age. Mark IV shadow suits, Elias explained, tossing one to Frank. They bend light, not enough to vanish, but enough to make you a whisper. Annie stepped forward, eyes sharp. What about me? You're the eyes, not the gun, Elias said firmly. You hold the system, lock their signals, shut their doors, and if we die, you erase everything before they touch it. Her chin lifted. Not a chance. If they come for you, they'll meet me first. For a heartbeat, Elias almost smiled. She's got her father's defiance, he thought. Then came the rumble. The ceiling trembled, dust falling like ash. The first explosion ripped through the north wing, turning steel and concrete into a storm of debris. Move! Elias roared. They ran through the tunnels, the glow of fire behind them. Shadows flickered, silhouettes moving in perfect synchronization. Helix soldiers, masked, armored, silent, emerging from the smoke like living nightmares. Frank's training roared to life. Every strike, every movement Raven had drilled into his bones became instinct. He dodged, disarmed, countered, but these weren't normal soldiers. Their reflexes were too sharp, their precision unnatural. Elias noticed it too. Enhanced. Mirror prototypes, he growled. Helix's new toys. Frank caught one's arm mid-swing and felt the chill, a pulse of mechanical rhythm under skin. Not human. Half machine, half mind. Annie's voice came through the comms, urgent. They've overridden our outer firewall. I'm rerouting through the old Raven protocols. Do it fast, Elias barked, firing into the smoke. They're testing our defenses. She typed faster, the screen bathing her face in ghostly blue light. Lines of code blurred together. For a split second, something strange appeared on her monitor, a line not written by her. Helix protocol active. Project Mirror Mind. Subject A. M.001. Signal detected. Her blood ran cold. Frank, she whispered, your father's neural signature just pinged in their comms. Static crackled in her earpiece. Then, a voice. Low. Distant. Too familiar. Annie. Frank, leave the haven. They'll come for me next. Frank froze. His breath caught like ice. Dad. The channel distorted, the signal fragmenting. They're in my head. Don't trust. The voice cut to static. Elias turned sharply. They're using him as bait. They want you to follow. Frank's fists clenched. Then I'll give them what they want, and I'll end it. Elias grabbed his shoulder. You'll do nothing unless you survive this first. Protect the girl, she's the key. Another explosion rocked the base. The power flickered out. The tunnels plunged into darkness. Elias tapped his wrist module, and faint blue light spread from his suit. Follow me, he said. Time to disappear. They darted into the lower passages, the old escape tunnels built decades ago for situations like this. Behind them, Helix soldiers swarmed the haven, tearing through every trace of the past. From the shadows, Annie looked back one last time. The Black Haven, their home, their last piece of safety, burning in silence. Tears welled in her eyes. "They took everything from us again." Frank turned to her, his face set with quiet fury. "Then we'll take everything back." Elias watched them both, seeing in them the reflection of an old war and the hope of a new one. "Helix thinks they've ended the game," he said, loading his rifle. "But the real war hasn't even begun." Far above them, unseen by all, a satellite lens turned, tracking 3 faint signatures moving through the tunnels. Somewhere, behind a screen, a Helix operator whispered, "Subject A, M.002 confirmed active." And the hunt began.